Disclaimer: the following narrative is based on open source reports and public claims.
Why have so many Ukrainian defensive lines collapsed much faster than Western analysts expected? For more than 2 years, the public has been told that Ukraine built layered, hardened defensive positions designed to withstand heavy Russian pressure for long periods of time. Yet when major offensives hit certain sectors, key positions fell within days, and in some cases, within hours. Today, we're breaking down 9 core factors that explain why Ukraine's defenses weakened sooner than predicted. This isn't about blaming or backing one side, but about understanding the true nature of modern warfare, something far more brutal and complex than the polished narratives that often appear in the media. Ukrainian troops have been fighting for more than 2 years with almost no long-term rest. Many frontline units are forced to stay in the same sector far longer than military theory recommends. In modern combat, heavily engaged units should be rotated out routinely to recover physically and mentally. But Ukraine simply doesn't have the manpower or resources for that. As a result, countless soldiers spend weeks or even months in the same trenches. Bad weather, poor sleep, constant artillery fire, and limited access to hot food steadily erode both morale and physical endurance. When units finally reach total exhaustion, positions that could have held longer collapse quickly once heavy pressure arrives. This reality rarely appears in Kiev's official statements, but it plays a major role in every retreat and defensive breakdown. One of the biggest reasons Ukrainian defenses fall is ammunition. Modern warfare is ruled by artillery, and the side that fires more shells usually controls the battlefield. During many phases of the conflict, Ukraine has been firing only a fraction of what Russia fires. In some periods, the ratio dropped to 1 Ukrainian round for every 7 Russian rounds, or worse. When Russian artillery opens up, Ukrainian units often cannot respond with anything close to equal force. A static defensive line without strong artillery support will be slowly chewed apart. Numerous reports indicate that some Ukrainian positions were effectively defeated even before a major attack began, because their troops had already run out of shells. Ukraine's total dependence on foreign ammunition magnifies the problem, because every political delay in the West becomes an immediate crisis on the battlefield. Ukraine planned to build strong, layered defenses throughout the East and South, but the reality is that many sectors were never completed or weren't nearly as reinforced as the public believed. In some areas, trenches were shallow, bunkers lacked full concrete reinforcement, and minefields were far sparser than modern standards require. There are several reasons for this. Ukraine lacks manpower, building materials, machinery, and perhaps most importantly, time. Construction crews were repeatedly forced to halt work because of Russian drones or artillery strikes. With interruptions happening almost daily, many defensive lines simply never reached the level needed to withstand a sustained assault. When a major Russian push eventually hit those sectors, the lines crumbled with shocking speed. Much of the world only realized the weaknesses after those positions fell, even though the warning signs had been visible long before. During the first year of the war, Russia made major mistakes: frontal assaults, poor coordination, and minimal use of drones. But that phase is over. Their approach has changed dramatically. Russia now relies on massive swarms of FPV drones, constant real-time reconnaissance, coordinated artillery fire guided by drone operators, and heavy electronic warfare support that disrupts Ukrainian signals. This new, layered system makes it incredibly difficult for Ukraine to hold ground. Every movement is detected, every bunker becomes a target, and every supply road is threatened. Instead of shocking blitz attacks, Russia now grinds down Ukrainian positions slowly, systematically, and with fewer losses. This methodical pressure steadily erodes defensive lines until they finally give way. Russian electronic warfare has become one of the most disruptive weapons in the conflict. Ukrainian drones frequently lose signal within seconds. Navigation systems glitch or shut down. Radio communication becomes unstable or fails entirely. This creates chaos in command and control. Orders arrive late or not at all. In several major battles, Ukrainian troops couldn't get clear instructions on whether they should hold, retreat, or reposition. Without reliable communication, coordination between infantry, artillery, and armored units becomes impossible. Some defenses collapse not because the soldiers refused to fight, but because they were effectively cut off from higher command. Once communication breaks down, every unit acts on its own instincts, which is rarely enough to stop a coordinated, well-supported assault. Ukraine faces a serious mobilization dilemma. The front line is long, attrition is high, and the demand for new troops keeps growing. But the government must balance military needs with the frustration of a population exhausted by a long war. Political arguments and public resistance delayed several mobilization decisions. Because of this, many defensive positions have far fewer soldiers than they should. A line that normally requires 2 or 3 full-strength units might be defended by a single understrength unit or by new recruits with little combat experience. When a major Russian assault hits such a thinly manned area, collapse becomes almost inevitable. Russia, with a larger reserve of manpower and more consistent recruitment, can sustain prolonged offensives. This manpower imbalance becomes more obvious with each passing month, and it directly contributes to the faster breakdown of Ukrainian defenses. Ukraine's survival heavily depends on Western support. Artillery shells, air defense missiles, armored vehicles, and even basic battlefield supplies mostly come from outside the country. But Western politics are unpredictable. When the US Congress stalls aid, or when European governments debate for months, Ukraine feels the impact immediately. A single political delay in Washington can mean 2 or 3 months of reduced Ukrainian artillery fire. And when frontline units are fighting with limited ammunition, defense lines fall quickly. This dependence places Ukraine in a fragile position because it doesn't control the timing, volume, or consistency of the weapons it desperately needs every day. To keep morale high and maintain Western support, Ukrainian officials often present an optimistic narrative about the situation on the ground. International media sometimes follows the same tone, but this creates unrealistic expectations for the global audience. When towns that were described as holding strong suddenly fall overnight, the world is shocked. The truth is that many of these positions were already close to collapse long before the public heard anything about it. This mismatch between official narrative and battlefield reality makes each collapse appear more dramatic than it truly is. It also hides the enormous strain placed on Ukrainian soldiers who are often fighting under impossible conditions. Combining all these factors, the exhaustion, the ammunition shortages, the unfinished defenses, Russia's evolving tactics, communication failures, insufficient mobilization, and reliance on the West, we see a very clear picture. Ukraine is fighting a war where almost every major factor favors its opponent. The rapid collapse of some defensive sectors is not just the result of Russian strength, it is also the product of systemic fatigue inside Ukraine's military structure. Systemic fatigue means that soldiers, logistics, communication networks, equipment supplies, and morale are all weakening at the same time. When this happens, even well-built defensive lines can fall shockingly fast. This is not an attack on the bravery of Ukrainian soldiers who continue to fight under incredibly harsh conditions. It is a realistic explanation for why supposedly impenetrable defensive lines sometimes crumble faster than analysts predicted. This war is far from over. The situation on every front changes constantly, and both sides continue to adapt. But understanding why Ukraine's defenses have collapsed faster than expected is crucial for anyone who wants a clearer, more honest picture of this conflict. Thank you for watching. If you want a breakdown of Russia's changing tactics, Ukraine's remaining defensive strategies, or predictions for the next phase of the war, leave a comment and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.